Meet Michigan, written by David McConnell, cover art by George Rasmussen. Chapter 4, Lesson 5, Ideas to Explore, Becoming a State, the Toledo War, People to Meet, Lewis Cass, Stevens T. Mason, Places to Discover, Capitol Building. Remember, it has an O, which is round like the dome of the building. The capital city is spelled with an A-L. Marshall, Michigan, Northwest Territory, words to welcome, census, Congress, encouraged, legislature, national government, slaves, wolverine. Becoming a state. Think about this while you read. What did a law called the Northwest Ordinance do for Michigan? Just a wilderness in the Northwest. Let's go back to the late 1700s. Michigan was still not a state. It was a land of trees, bears, and wolves. Most of the people were Native Americans. Only a few settlers had arrived. At that time, there was a lot of extra land in the United States. Congress was dividing this land. It was making territories out of it. Remember, a territory is land that is part of the United States, but not yet a state. Michigan was made a part of the Northwest Territory. That was done in 1787. The Northwest Territory had much land. Later, it was divided into several states. Ohio and Illinois came from that land. Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin also came from that land. All of these states were once in the Northwest Territory. Why did they use the name Northwest Territory? At that time, our nation was smaller. This land was in the northwest corner of the country. An important law. Next, Congress formed the Northwest Territory. Then it wrote basic rules for a territory. This law told what to do to become a state. Here is what it said. Step 1. At first, a territory did not choose its leader. Its people could not vote. The President of the United States picked 4 leaders. They were a governor and 3 judges. Step 2. To reach this step, there must be 5,000 free adult men. Women, Indians, and slaves did not count. That is the way it was at that time. Now, they could vote for a group of lawmakers. This is called a legislature. The governor approves all laws. The governor and judges are still named by the president. Step 3. The key is 60,000 people. Once 60,000 people lived there, things could move ahead. Indians and slaves still did not count. Then Congress votes to decide if the territory can become a state. If Congress says yes, it will be equal to all other states. Who has power? With this law, who has the power? It does not mention women. It says free adult men. Did you know women could not vote? That did not happen until over 130 years later. Slaves could not vote. The president said who was in charge. The president might not be in touch with events here. The wrong people might be put in charge. The people here wanted to become a state as soon as possible. They wanted to have their own say. Some key points. Was this a bad law? No, it had good points. Here are some other things it said. Number 1, no new slaves could be brought here. People who already had slaves could keep them. Number 2, Indians must be treated fairly. No land could be taken from them unless they agreed. Number 3, starting schools was encouraged. The lawmakers felt good schools were important. They had 3 reasons in mind. Schools can help young people know about religion. They can help teach about what is right and wrong. They can give students useful knowledge. Even with this law, the tribes did not get good deals for their land. Laws cannot make people do the right thing. It is what people have in their hearts that really counts. Leaders for our territory. Our territory needed a leader. The president chose General Hull for the first governor. Remember, he had problems in the War of 1812 and left. 2 others led our territory for a while. Then Lewis Cass was given the job. This was in 1813. Governor Cass worked hard to help Michigan grow. He traveled and explored the land. He made treaties with tribes. He told people why they should bring their families here. He wrote the state motto. He designed the state seal. Cass City and Cassopolis were named for him. A county and a river also have his name. Lewis Cass kept his job for 16 years. Who was Lewis Cass? Lewis Cass was born in 1782. He did not live here then. His family was in New Hampshire. Like many others, he moved west. Moving west was the thing to do. That was where the excitement was. His father was given land in Ohio. This was a reward for fighting in the War for Independence in 1776. He moved to Ohio with his father. Lewis helped his family cut down trees and start a farm. He grew and studied hard. Lewis wanted to be a lawyer. By 1803, he had set up his own law office. That same year, Ohio became a state. Later, the young Cass won an election. He was voted into the Ohio legislature. Since Ohio was a state, it could vote for its leaders. Next, Lewis Cass joined the Army. He fought in the War of 1812. He was at Detroit with General Hull. Lewis Cass was in the newspapers when he won a battle against the British. Michigan was lucky to have him move from Ohio. In 1831, he was given a job with the national government. He left for Washington, D.C. Later, he served Michigan as a U.S. Senator. He even ran for president in the 1840s. A young new leader. A fellow named John Mason came to Michigan to work with Governor Cass. Mr. Mason brought his son with him. His son's name was Stephen T. Mason. He often helped his father. When Cass was away, John Mason was in charge. John Mason was bored. He wanted more excitement. He was going to Texas. Lewis Cass and the Masons met with President Jackson. Mr. Mason asked if his son could take his job. President Jackson liked the young man, and he agreed. That was how Stephen T. Mason got his start. He became secretary for the Michigan Territory. He was only 19 then. He was not even old enough to vote. Now there was a surprise. The young man learned Lewis Cass was staying in Washington. Cass was going to work for the national government. Stephen T. Mason would be alone in Michigan. He would be in charge. The boy is in charge? Stephen T. Mason left for Detroit. There, he had a second surprise. He was met by a mob. A crowd of 2,000 gathered in Detroit. Many people were upset. How could the president let a young person be in charge? They spoke out against him. This could be like your mom or dad leaving your older brother or sister in charge. You might think he or she was too young. Would you be upset? Stevens told everyone he would listen to the advice of the older people. He was able to convince the crowd. Still, he was given the nickname Boy Governor. In the next few years, he would have lots to do. Hey, we are ready. Ohio became a state in 1803. Indiana became a state in 1816. Illinois became a state in 1818. Michigan was still just a territory. Boatloads of people came to Michigan once the Erie Canal opened. By 1834, we had over 60,000 people. That was enough to become a state. Stephen T. Mason asked the Congress in Washington, D.C. to vote on it. Let Michigan become a state. Congress said, "Not so fast." What was the problem? Didn't Congress want to start new states? Here is the story. Michigan was arguing with Ohio. We were arguing over the land where Toledo is now. The boundary showed it was in Michigan. The state of Ohio did not agree. War with Ohio? You must be kidding. Neighbors may argue over where to put a fence. If they do, they may get upset. In the early 1830s, Michigan and Ohio were upset. Each state wanted a bit more land. They both wanted Toledo. People felt it would grow to be an important city. Our soldiers marched to Toledo. They said, "We will keep Toledo for Michigan." Some people expected a war to start. They expected to hear the boom of cannons. There were no battles. No one was killed. There were some fistfights and shouting. The people from Ohio yelled, "You are nasty wolverines! You want to come and steal our land?" This time of bad feelings with Ohio was known as the Toledo War. Wolverines are wild animals. They are known for their bad tempers and bad smell. They often stole food from cabins. The people from Ohio felt we were stealing their land. Michigan's people may still be called Wolverines, but now we are proud of this nickname. A trade. Now, President Jackson was upset. He said, "This is foolishness. It must stop. States should not fight with each other." He said there should be a trade. Ohio will get Toledo and the land around it. Michigan will get the western Upper Peninsula. That land was not a part of Michigan. Some Michiganians did not think the trade was a good idea. They thought the Upper Peninsula was too far away. They thought it was a frozen wasteland. What good was it? Well, they soon found out it had many trees for lumber, much copper and iron too. It was a very good trade. Congress voted. We did become a state. That was in 1837. Stevens T. Mason was the first state governor. That is the story of how Michigan became a state. It is also the story of how Toledo, Ohio, might have been Toledo, Michigan. How Michigan grew. Each year, more people moved here. The Erie Canal made it easier to reach Michigan. The cheap land pulled them to our state. The tribes gave up their land by treaties. As the number of settlers went up, the number of Native Americans fell. The people here were counted several times. The government took a census to do this. A census is an official count of the people living in a place. Michigan's capital. When we were a territory, the capital was Detroit. Detroit stayed the capital until 1847. Then, some people felt it should be nearer the middle of the state. When people heard this, everyone wanted it to be their town. The people of Marshall even built a new house for the governor. The legislature voted but could not decide. No one voted for someone else's town. Finally, someone said, "Make it Lansing." Lansing? Where is that? There were only a few cabins in Lansing then. The good thing about Lansing was its location. It was more in the middle of the state. The next time they voted, everyone was shocked. Lansing won and the capital was moved in 1848. Today, Lansing is a large city. The capital is still there. The Capitol building you see now was built in 1879.